Wow, for all you unlucky souls out there, yet another video. I've tried to record this about 2 or 3 times, but for some reason stuff keeps getting in the way. So, and when I mean that, I mean is technical difficulties and all that. But anyway, that's not the point of the video. Obviously, so the most recent result with Sunderland losing at home to MK Dons, it kind of got me thinking about Phil Parkinson quite a lot. And as the title of the video suggests, I am now Parkinson out. Now, for a bit of context, I was Parkinson in going into the game against MK Dons the other day, and the main reason for that was because I believe Sunderland don't have to be absolutely fantastic. I don't believe they have to be a great standard to get promoted this year, to be honest. And I do believe the squad, there's some elements of that squad that isn't good enough, but there are some of them that I think are definitely good enough, and I think Parkinson could be getting a little bit more out of these players. But if you look at it, we were on over 2 points per game after 10 games, having played Oxford, who, granted, when we were playing them, they were pretty down low. You know, we weren't expecting to be lower in the table, but also because they were 90 minutes away of getting promoted last season, and we expected them to be higher. So, with that benefit of the doubt in mind, you had Oxford, Portsmouth, Peterborough, Ipswich, and Charlton, and that's 4 of the top 7, I believe. So if you just looked at it that way alone, 4 of the top 7 in the first 10 games, while getting us on over 2 points per game, irrespective of the performances. Obviously, the Mansfield game and the whatnot was poor. The thing is, under Parkinson's reign, but we've also had results like Bristol Rovers 1-1, 2-2 against Rochdale, and obviously the 2-1 loss against MK Dons. Now, going into this video, I will congratulate MK Dons on the victory. I'm sure their fans would have absolutely loved that result, and fair enough. Not going to take that away from them. But from my perspective, looking at the game quickly, is that the 2 goals that they scored were really from our own undoing. Cameron Drome's header is absolutely class. The way that he flicks his head backwards, gets the ball right across the goal line and past Remy Matthews, who was at full stretch to try and save it. That was great. But for me, Bailey Wright showed him I wouldn't say far too much. Bailey Wright showed him too much of the goal, in my opinion, to aim for, and not to mention worse, the free kick in the build-up to that shouldn't have been given away. Likewise with the penalty. We basically hit the self-destruct button. And remember, we took the lead in the game. So for me, everyone knows by now, the worst type of defeat for me is when you've lost from a winning position. I can't stand defeats like that. But anyway, that's not the point is not the players, it's about Parkinson. I've tried to jot down a few bullet points as to my thoughts on it. Now, as I said, I was Parky in before the game started. After the game, I was on the fence. But after watching the likes of SCFC David, listening to Rogue Report and Wise Men Say, after watching Jam Sani, after watching Thane SCFC and Gilesy as well, Mad Mistake, the works, the lot. After watching everybody and listening to different thoughts and opinions, I've come to the more I thought about it, I've jumped off the fence, and gone to Parkinson out. And for me, there's a good few reasons as to why. I'm going to attempt to keep this as brief as possible, but you know me, I tend to waffle on quite a bit. Right, the first thing is the team selection against MK Dons. Now, for me, there was a couple of elements of that team selection that were a bit questionable. First of all was Matthews, but to be fair, I don't think Matthews did that bad against MK Dons, to be fair to him. The main one was Luke O'Nien playing at centre-half, when you had Dion Sanderson, who was was fit enough clearly to be on the bench, and likewise with Lee Burge, even though Lee Burge apparently had a knock, so I do question why Patterson, who did alright against Fleetwood in the Papa John's Trophy, wasn't on the bench. That was questionable to me. But for the Luke O'Nien thing, I didn't mind him so much playing against centre-half. That was only, however, if the likes of Sanderson, Willis or Wright, if any one of those 3 were not fit. And it kind of brings me on to my point. You could have put O'Nien at right wing back and then moved Gooch with a front 3. It could have been Gooch, Wyke and Grigg, really, because you could have Grigg and Wyke interchange. Or you could have had Grigg, because Grigg was operating quite a bit down the channels at the start of the game. So for me, I don't see any reason why Grigg couldn't have been a part of a front 3 there. Maybe I'm talking rubbish or not, who knows. As long as you're respectful in the comments, I don't mind your opinion disagreeing. But in saying that, we then had, I can't believe this. We like I said, we had Sanderson fit on the bench. Now, Willis wasn't fit. You could clearly as day look on the pitch. Willis wasn't fully fit. Now, for me, with the Willis's injury in mind and with his condition in mind, why didn't you use the Mansfield and the Fleetwood Cup games, which, although the Mansfield performance was poor, those 2 games were not the be-all and end-all of our season, really. Why didn't you just use those 2 games to try a 4-at-the-back formation? And even if you didn't play the likes of Bailey Wright and Charlie Wyke and Grant Ledbetter and Josh Scow and all that, you still could have had the players to experiment with that formation, and you can practice that stuff you can drill things loads of times in training. Bill Parkinson had opportunities there to practice different things, and it's just ridiculous. But anyway, I don't understand that. The next thing is his reluctance to change things, both in terms of substitutions and in terms of team selections. Now, you've got the likes of Elliot Embleton, Dan Neil and Jack Diamond, the three main examples of the players who are the younger crowd, so to speak. Now, against Fleetwood, I thought like Embleton and Dan Neil, I thought they did pretty well. Yes, they faded off second half, but that's going to come with an inexperience. It's as simple as that, really. And as far as I'm concerned, for the league games, they offer something a bit different to what we've got. They offer a bit of energy and a bit more pace. Now, I think a lot of people go on about pace a bit too much, but at the same time, we could do with a bit more pace and energy. And those players, those youngsters, could actually offer that. So, and with all due respect, if you're not going to make it when you're in League One, you're not going to make it at Sunderland, unfortunately. It's the sad, brutal reality is that you're not going to make it at Sunderland in general in the future if you can't make it in League One, more than likely anyway. But like I said, playing those players could be unpredictable to a lot of the opposition, because once they stop our full-backs, our wing-backs, which yesterday was Gooch and Hume, but really should be O'Nien and Hume, if you stop their play, you stop a lot of our attacks. Now, like Jamsani said in his video, and he was part of the inspiration why I'm doing a video about this, encourage people to go down the middle. Try different routes, try different things, and if they don't get it right at first, train it, coach it into them. That's what you're there for. Parkinson is so insistent on Plan A, and more often than not, Plan A in 2020 has worked. But when it doesn't work, and there are times it's not going to work, you need to actually change things up a bit and confuse the opposition into thinking, right, are they going to go for that style of play? Are they going to go for that tactic? Are they going to go for that or the other? You know, you've got to try something a bit different. And Parkinson seems either too stubborn or too naive to do that, in my opinion. And the substitutions, which is absolutely. It baffles me completely, that, to be honest, because it was clear as day. At half-time, I thought we started the game pretty well. First 10-15 minutes, I thought we started pretty well. But by half-time, MK Dons were starting to get on top in the game. And the only other chance we created after the 20 minutes was when, I think it was Ledbetter who put a ball either behind the defence or over the top, where if Grigg connected with the ball better, he could have scored quite easily, in my opinion. But after that point, MK Dons were starting to end the half quite well. And I said, we needed half-time to come. I said it on the SCFC Fan TV live stream, and apologies about that, by the way, because I'd like to think I'm calm and collected when it comes to Sunderland, but yesterday struck a nerve with me in so many different ways. MK Dons were on top at half-time. Did Parkinson try to change anything? Did he try to freshen it up? Did he try to help the lads out in any way? Doesn't look like it. And from our own kickoff, we conceded the penalty. We conceded the penalty from our own kickoff, which in my opinion is unacceptable. But Parkinson waited until the 65th minute to bring the likes of Chris Maguire on. And I said in the stream, that game was crying out for Chris Maguire to come on and try and affect the game. And like Jack Diamond coming on the 86th minute, what are you going to do there? What are you going to expect someone to do it in 86 minutes? It's the same thing. I remember Bristol Rovers away last year, right before lockdown started. You know, we were offering nothing up front whatsoever. We get outworked by a very out-of-form Bristol Rovers side. Sorry, Charlie, if you're watching this. And he brought Will Grigg on with like 10 minutes to go when we're 2-0 down. What do you expect him to do? Magically get a hat-trick in 10 minutes. And speaking of Will Grigg, that's the next point. I'll move on from the subs and the Plan B thing because that's been done to death. Will Grigg. For me, I'm still probably naively suggesting that I still believe that if Will Grigg got a handful of games, you could maybe get something out of him. Now, for me, the reason I say that, Will Grigg started pre-season fairly well. He did it against, I think it was against Gateshead and against Harrogate. Now, yes, it's Gateshead and Harrogate, but for me, that doesn't matter. Goals are goals. It gets your confidence up, regardless of the opposition. And he played quite well against Hull in terms of running down the channels, occupying space, causing Hull all sorts of problems, linking up with Aidan O'Brien, and he had 2 goals, at least one of which, maybe both arguably, were unfairly ruled out in the game. But because Parkinson saw that he didn't score in the following week against Bristol Rovers, it's like, oh, I've got an excuse to drop him now. That does not do his confidence any world of good whatsoever. That's very poor management from Parkinson, in my opinion. Even though White does deserve his starting slot, but there you go. And the last point I'll try and touch upon is the Aidan McGeady situation. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of alleged rumours. Now, everything I say in this video is about alleged things that have allegedly happened. I don't know for definite if any of this stuff is true. What I'm going off is, if McGeady has allegedly been bullying the first team or causing problems behind the scenes, you wouldn't let him train with the under-23s. That's the most counterproductive thing you could think of if he was actually causing problems behind the scenes. And for me, then, the biggest reason is that McGeady could help stretch the play. If he's on the pitch, he could easily help stretch the play for Sunderland, because if you were smart enough, I watched coverage of a Newcastle game on Sky Sports, and one of the arguments was, if Newcastle use Alan St. Maximin to occupy most of the players, train the other players to run down into pockets of space that will be created by the gaps that St. Maximin is causing in the opposition back line on the opposition team altogether. Now, Sunderland could use Aidan McGeady to that advantage. Now, Aidan McGeady's wages, at least at the start of the season, I don't know if that's the case now, if his wages would barely count less than 2k towards the salary cap, then why not use him? Why not use him, in my opinion? You know, Aidan McGeady, at the end of this year, we're not going to offer Aidan McGeady a new contract. I'd be amazed if he stays longer than this year, for a couple of reasons. One, if Parkinson is still here, he's got no future at Sunderland, unfortunately. And even though I'm talking about Aidan McGeady, while Parkinson is here, I do not expect him to be in the first team picture, unfortunately. And the second thing is, he's older and his wages will probably be a bit too much, especially if the salary cap is in place next season. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Aidan McGeady is the main reason, in my opinion, and I might be being a conspiracy theorist here, for me, Aidan McGeady is being frozen out of the side because he's got higher standards, and Parkinson doesn't seem to like that. Now, obviously, Parkinson, I do believe, wants to do his best for Sunderland, and I do believe he wants to get us promoted, and I do ultimately want him more than anything. I want him to prove me wrong and turn it round. But unfortunately, with Parkinson, like I said, with a couple of team selections that are a bit questionable, persisting with players who are off form, a lack of a plan B, lack of a reluctance to change the games, and a lack of management when it comes to the likes of Greg and McGeady, who I believe should be two of the best players in League One. As far as I'm concerned, I'm Parkinson out for those reasons, and it's a real shame. You know, like I said, I was on the fence about Parkinson after the game, but the more I've thought about it, and the more I've actually looked at what other people's opinions were, I've actually been convinced and swayed over to Parkinson out now. Now, don't get me wrong, I was Parkinson out last year, and I got turned round in one way or another, but that's largely down to the current pandemic. And Parkinson, in some respects, I think is very, very lucky that we've had the current pandemic, because that, in some respects, could have saved him his job. Like I said, though, if the takeover doesn't happen, there's no chance we're getting rid of Parkinson. And if the takeover does happen, with what's going on with Louis Dreyfus and Wan Satori consortium, we'll have to wait and see one way or another. But I'll love you and leave you there, guys. That's my thoughts on Phil Parkinson. And lastly, thank you very much to every single one of you legends who helped me get over 2,000 subscribers this weekend. Absolutely incredible. I had to beg for those other subscribers, but I'm so appreciative of what everybody's done for us. Without you lovely lot who's wanting to watch me and willing to keep coming back to watch me, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. So I'm very appreciative of what everyone's done for us. Take care, guys. I'll be on SFC Fan TV later on tonight, which is Sunday, 15th of November at the time of recording. If you're watching it back later on, go and watch SFC Fan TV anyway and try and get them to 5,000 subscribers. For the work that those guys put into the channel, they do deserve it. Anyway, guys, I love you and leave yous. And see you for Doncaster and Fleetwood coming up soon. Yay!